Well, hey class, my name is Darren Kirby, and the fieldwork paper that I chose to do for this class is on the Applicant Tracking System software. Some of you probably know what this is, but essentially, let me give you a rundown. This software is designed to help manage applicants for jobs, primarily used by HR recruiters, and it's becoming more and more common. This software includes features such as being able to post jobs to different job websites like Indeed and Glassdoor, social media sites, and other job posting places. It does resume importing and parsing, so it will fill in a whole lot of blanks from the resume that you upload to it, either in Word format or PDF. It does allow candidate tracking and has several other features. And the software allows for applicants to be sorted by whatever factors the company in question using it is deeming it important. That might be educational requirements, that might be experience requirements, that could be some other things. But it allows for a number of different ways to sort that. Some history for you on the ATS software. It actually has been around for at least 30 years, maybe a little longer than 30 years now. The very first software was titled Resumix, short for Resumes on Unix. At the time, very large companies like IBM would be running Unix on their computers, and so they needed a way to sort through the literally thousands of resumes that they would get. And it basically was a glorified database for resumes. That's really what it was designed for, so that they could sort through resumes very quickly. Currently, the software now is much more robust. Smaller size companies are using it, and the software itself can post to multiple online job boards easily, as I mentioned. The applicants now are entered directly into the ATS software rather than just feeding in some information, which the old Resumix software used to do. Now, applicants, as a job applicant, you're setting up your own account with an ATS software package. And this software assists not only the HR recruiter, but it does assist the hiring manager as well in the process. And as I mentioned, the integration with social media, especially consider Facebook, where you can really narrow down where you want to have your job postings be. If you're looking for certain candidates from certain geographical regions or cities or zip codes, that can be incorporated. And keywords definitely are a hot topic currently. So let's talk about the real world and applicants, how they interact with the software. Despite the low unemployment that we've had for several years, it still is not that easy for a qualified candidate to actually make it to the interview round. You need to pass through this software to get there, and those keywords that I mentioned, that is kind of the gateway, the key to get through. So what is the right strategy for a resume? A lot of times resumes used to be a static document. Your cover letter was customized to the business, to the company. Now you might need to do even more customization on your resume as well for each job that you're applying for. Larger companies definitely appear to do a better job at utilizing this software. They basically just have the personnel resources to throw at it to get a decent handle on the software and to use it well. My personal observation on the software is that I feel that there's a little bit too much reliance on it to do some of the job sorting and candidate sorting, but hopefully that will get better as time goes on. So in the real world, also, I managed to do two different interviews with some HR professionals that I know. One of them was from a large company, had over 8,500 employees, and the other one was from a small company here located in the town where I live. It is right around 50 full-time employees, and they both had quite different perspectives on ATS software. The first recruiter Matt, he's the one that works at the large company on the east side of the state. Again, over 8,500 employees worldwide. He personally has used several different versions of ATS software, and he does see a lot of positives with the software. There's a central database of applicants to look at, keeping it all nice and in one place. Help with compliance and the ease of record keeping and reporting. Both of those get to be important the larger you grow. Better relations with the hiring manager. You can bring that hiring manager into the picture with HR, so you get a nice collaboration. And for him, he's also able to spot trends in the hiring. So that's kind of interesting and be able to predict where they might be able to find the best candidates going forward. One of the biggest downsides that he saw in my interview was requiring all applicants to create an account in the software. And there really isn't any good way to get around that. You can shorten the process so that the very first interaction potential applicant has with the software is as easy as possible, but it still is required that you make an account with them. The software is getting better at parsing resumes, but it still takes time to review all of that. Even if the software does the work for you, you still need to review everything, make sure that it is correct. And overall, Matt sees that ATS, it's just going to become more automated, more ubiquitous, and in some cases even more specialized for specific industries, such as manufacturing or things like that. The other recruiter Christy, she's the one that works at a small company here, about 50 employees full-time. She has rarely used the ATS software. She was at a place in Minneapolis, St. Paul, helping to install some ATS software, but did not stick around very long to use it, and she doesn't use it at her current employer. Overall, she's not a huge fan of the software. She finds it to be very, very impersonal for dealing with potential candidates. Instead, she utilizes a number of the backdoor features of Indeed.com. When she does her job postings, she's able to categorize potential candidates for each job as they come in, and some other features in the back end. She does like the feature that most ATS software has, where you can basically set it up to send acknowledgments of receipt to the applicants, which is nice. You acknowledge their presence in the world, and that you as the company have their application. She certainly does not want to rely too heavily on the use of keywords in sorting through candidates, as she feels that potentially good candidates could slip through. If you're not using the exact keywords, then you might in fact miss some good candidates that way. But on the whole, she acknowledges that the software is here to stay and it will get better, but she does not anticipate using it at her current employer, mostly because of the cost-benefit analysis. It's just too expensive, and there really is very little upside to their company using the software. So my basic analysis, after doing the two different interviews, doing the research on the history and what it's currently used for, kind of the state of things, I personally was surprised that the software has been around for as long as it has, for over 30 years, and where it got its start, but it kind of makes sense that the very largest companies would come up with something like this. The integration with social media definitely makes sense, especially with Facebook and seeing more and more job opportunities in Facebook, myself even using it. It just helps companies to find the potential candidates, meet them where they're at. It was definitely interesting to learn between these two interviews that I did, plus my own experience working at a company of about 120 employees, that there's this interesting rough delineation. I don't know if this holds true, but it seemed kind of interesting, where around the 100 or so employee mark seems to be where it makes sense for most companies to implement an ATS software package. Recruiter Christie being at one where there's only about 50 or so doesn't make sense. With a large company where Recruiter Matt was at over 8,000 employees in multiple locations all over the world, yeah, it definitely makes sense and it is a huge help for them. So there is that point where you get you get big enough as a company where this software makes sense to include in your work. Keywords are important, no matter what anyone is going to tell you. Keywords have always been important, but they're even more so today, with the software being as precise as it can be. Job seekers themselves would do well to consider customizing their resumes. As I mentioned earlier, those keywords are very important to have not only on their cover letter, but probably on their resume as well. And frankly, the software is going to be here to stay. It's been around for 30 years. It is not going anywhere, but it will get better and it will become more refined over time, which will only lead to better things. Understand that the software, and this is from a job candidate, job searcher perspective, the software is meant to be a help for HR recruiters, especially those that get a lot of applications for a lot of open job openings, a lot of job openings. I mean, they could be looking through hundreds, perhaps thousands of resumes, and on a human scale, that is just a lot of paperwork to go through. So anything you can do as a recruiter to make that easier, then you're certainly going to be all for. And the software certainly does that. But remember, it's not perfect. And for those who are in HR, who do recruiting, I urge them to understand their ATS software much better than they have been. Understand what it can do, and definitely understand where its limitations are, and be prepared to come up with ways to combat those shortcomings. And definitely do not forget the human aspect in the job search. So that's everything that I learned from doing my fieldwork research paper on the Applicant Tracking System software. Found it very interesting. Hopefully you learned a little something from this, and I look forward to your comments from my fellow classmates. Thank you very much.